talking about breakouts next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Dan Schneier. We're going to talk about breakouts on today's podcast. If you listen to the full episode of Fantasy Football Today, you'll get a very long discussion from Heath Cummings and myself on our top breakout picks for the 2023 season. But Dan and I are going to give you our picks, and I'm just going to go with one. I'm going to double up on a guy that I was too high on a year ago, probably about 10 rounds too high, because I had Kyle Pitts as a third-round pick last season, and frankly, he was not worth that. He was not worth the sixth-round pick that I'm going to pay for him in a lot of my drafts this season, but I think there's still a lot of things working in Kyle Pitts' favor. First of all, he is still younger than 3 of the 6 tight ends who were drafted in the first 2 rounds of this year's NFL draft, including Dalton Kincaid, the first-round pick for the Buffalo Bills. So he's got that going for him. He also has, a 1,000-yard season at the NFL level under his belt, in addition to historically productive college seasons. And he is still one of just 8 players over the past 5 seasons with a target share over 20% and an average depth of target over 10 yards down the field. The rest of the list features actually his teammate Drake London, who did that as a rookie last year, but also some other guys you might have heard of: Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams twice, Julio Jones, Mark Andrews, A.J. Brown. Pretty good list of players there. I understand the Falcons are not going to throw the ball very much. Arthur Smith is their coach. We all get that. If they're just 5th to the bottom from the bottom in pass attempts, that's probably 100 more pass attempts than they had last season. There is room for both Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts and Drake London to be 1,000-yard receivers in this offense, even if it's a very low pass offense. But the reason I like Kyle Pitts, he doesn't need to be a 1,000-yard guy to be a must-start fantasy tight end. If he's 900 yards and 7 touchdowns, you're putting him in your lineup every week and you're not thinking about it. So that's why I like Kyle Pitts as a breakout. Dan, why don't you give me some of your breakouts?
I'm going to start with a quarterback here, Justin Herbert, who I think has a real opportunity to get back to where he was 2 years ago as one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football. What I really like about Herbert's profile this year is he's getting a massive upgrade when it comes to play calling and the offensive system he's running. In addition to that, he has pieces around him that can maximize what they're going to try to do from a schematic standpoint. One piece no one talks about, it's going to be a massive upgrade for him, is the ability to get Rashawn Slater back, the offensive tackle who 2 years ago maybe had the best rookie offensive tackle season I've ever seen in my life covering this sport. He got injured last year. He's on track. If he's back playing that left tackle position, it's going to make a difference. It's going to open up that vertical plane for Justin Herbert to take advantage of his new receiver, Quentin Johnston, who not only can win on the vertical plane, but also will offer something the Chargers didn't have last year, which is the ability to turn one of those mesh routes or one of those quick crossers over the middle when the entire defense clears out to cover Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, wherever the play seems to be designed. Hit Johnston, and he can take those to the house. That's actually where he's best right now. So I love Justin Herbert this year. Moving on past Herbert, there are a few other breakouts I like. At running back, Dameon Pierce, I really think he's going under the radar now as far as what his upside is from a breakout perspective. Jacob Gibbs has done a lot of great work over at Sportsline on some of the advanced metrics that could lead to breakouts. And one of them has been avoided tackle rate. And his 39% higher in college was at the same level of Bijan Robinson, Javonte Williams, and Travis Etienne. Really good company. He carried that over last season. The Texans did not do much to put competition around him. They did sign Devin Singletary, but Singletary got, a smaller contract than players like Samaje Perine on the free agent market. And in addition to that, I like where that offensive line is trending there in Houston. And I like what I expect from the system there. The system there is going to be that zone blocking system that we've seen, a very Shanahan principle system. And that fits Dameon Pierce's skill set perfectly as a runner. That to me has always been underrated. It's led to breakouts with several running backs in the past. So I do like Dameon Pierce there. And then finally, the last player that we talk about always, it seems like now these days on FFT, it seems like we're all in on this player. So that can never be a good sign, but maybe it will be anyway. It's Calvin Ridley. Look, I just look at the Calvin Ridley edition as this. I watched that Jaguars team more than any other team but the Giants last year on tape. And what they were missing at all times was somebody who can separate vertically against man coverage. Say Jones, all these players, they tried to run the vertical plane. Marvin Jones, they just couldn't separate and they couldn't take advantage of Trevor Lawrence's arm. It had to be superhero plays from Lawrence to get vertical pass plays going. That's not going to be the case with Calvin Ridley. He in 2021, when we last saw him, he was still one of the best vertical separators against press man coverage. He's also one of the best receivers overall against man coverage at all three levels of the field. That's going to be really good for Trevor Lawrence. His arm talent will take advantage of somebody who can beat man coverage over and over. You can't scheme against players who can beat man coverage. We've seen it with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase is also one of the most consistent man coverage beaters in the NFL. So look, I look at Ridley as someone who's going to be open all the time for Lawrence. It's just a matter of how often Lawrence wants to feed him the ball, because he's got other weapons. And I think it's going to be often enough for Ridley to be a wide receiver 1 this year.
I believe Ridley led the NFL in air yards in 2020. His last full season playing with Matt Ryan was I believe, almost a 1,500-yard guy that season. And frankly, they left a lot of plays on the field. So if Trevor Lawrence is a QB upgrade there, and Calvin Ridley is still that guy after, not really playing for the last year and a half, there's certainly a ton of upside. Personally, I'm a little lower on the Jaguars offense than everyone else. And I'll grant that might be my mistake, because I'm more in the, I want to see it before I believe in. When it comes to a team with the offense, the upside that the Jaguars have with Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, and Travis Etienne, it might be a case where you might need to buy in before you see it to fully reap the rewards of the potential that they might have, because this could be one of the 5 best offenses in the NFL. So I definitely see the case, even if I'm a little more skeptical than you on the offense as a whole. That's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll be back tomorrow to talk busts for the 2023 season. We'll see you then.